Broadcasting from the Cass Corridor in Detroit, this is The Metro. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Today on the program, we'll look at the impacts that one of Detroit's oldest choirs has had on music in the city.
Also, the Committee to Protect Journalists says Gaza is the most dangerous place in the world for journalists. We'll look at the threats they face.
And over half the food waste we generate in Michigan is actually compostable. We'll learn how to turn our food scraps into nutrient gold.
And we'll take your calls as well. What are you doing to get your garden beds ready? Does compost make it into the mix? Give us a call at 313-577-1019. But first up on the Metro, we try our best to highlight elements of the city's history that have defined its culture. We have discussed how integral gospel music is to the fabric of Detroit's history. And today, we're going to touch on another facet of music history in the city. In 1949, the Rackham Choir was formed. Throughout its nearly 80-year history, the chorus has performed with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, the Michigan Opera Theater, and the Eisenhower Dance Ensemble. The Rackham Choir just recently performed at Hartford Memorial Church in Detroit. And Julian Goods, the choir's new artistic director, joins us now to share more about the group. Julian, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So now, apparently the Rackham Choir is the oldest Detroit choir. How could that be true? Well, we know there are so many people who've been singing in church choirs and singing so much longer. So can you, if you can, touch a little bit on that history there?
Well, I believe that the Rackham Choir is one of the longest standing, still standing choirs for a community that is not affiliated with religious spaces such as churches. And so it is the longest standing group in Detroit that just brings community members from all over to sing and make music.
And thinking about you yourself, Julian, you know, you're not originally from the city of Detroit. Can you talk a little bit about taking this role and moving to the city and how you've been adjusting here?
Yeah, so I, of course, came to the city of Detroit by way of the University of Michigan. I'm originally a Chicago native, but came to the University of Michigan, was able to do my student teaching at Detroit School of Arts and become very acquainted with the city. And then after my master's degree, I got the opportunity to stay in the city, working at the Detroit School of Arts, but then also becoming, at that time, the collaborative pianist for the Rackham Choir under the direction of my friend, Dr. Brandon Waddles. And then recently have become the artistic director. The city has been great to me. I love Detroit. I've been in the Detroit area for almost 10 years, so just love it.
And, you know, one of the things I was going to say is about being at DSA. It's a particular school. We know, if you're from the city, you know about the students who come out of Detroit School of Arts and the talent that they have there. So if you can just talk a little bit about the interactions with the younger folk, and then we'll move on to your new position here. But just talk a little bit more about that interaction you've been able to have with some of the Detroit students.
Absolutely. This is my fourth year at the Detroit School of Arts, and so I've gotten to work with who I consider some of the city's most talented students, mostly vocalists, but also jazz pianists such as Jacob Hart. The vocal students here have done things like commercials for Kith clothing line. They recently went to New York and to compete in the World Strides Festival and won literally every category that they qualified for. And we've seen students go on to Berklee College of Music, to large conservatories around the country, as well as our historically Black colleges and universities. And one of the cool things is that the Rackham Choir has a high school intern program that supports the mission of young artists by helping support their voice lessons and then giving them coachings with our music team. And so the Detroit School of Arts has had several students over the years be a part of that program through the Rackham Choir to support and help their careers.
Which is really, 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 really cool. The city of Detroit, once again, has this really deep, rich music legacy, and you're helping expand that a little bit there as well. So, you know, congratulations on your appointment as the new artistic director. Let's talk a little bit about you being originally from or working and studying in Pittsburgh, and then as well the University of Michigan. Can you talk a little bit about some of your first musical influences? And oftentimes we think about classical music being one of those things that you have to learn first. So can you talk about what's important to you in terms of that foundational knowledge, especially as a musician?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in, I was born in Pittsburgh and raised in Chicago,
Nice.
but I was born to a musical family. Both of my uncles are professional jazz musicians. My uncle Richie Goods, professional jazz bass player in the New York area, and my other uncle Emmett Goods is professional trombone player and teaches at the University of Rhode Island. All of my family sings, and so I just grew up in church with my whole family singing. We laughed because my great grandmother, when she joined the church choir, they asked her what part she sang, and she told them the only part she sings is solo. And that is my family. You know, we get together, we sing, we play, and so I grew up in that tradition, mainly gospel music, and I fell in love with classical music. My mom always says it's because when she was carrying me, she put headphones on her stomach and played classical music because that was the trend of the time. And so my family had a lot of influence on me being musical, but then also when we moved to Chicago, people like my middle school choir teacher, Dr. Sterling Cope, is arguably the reason why I became a conductor. And then the influence of my piano and organ teacher, Dr. Keith Hampton, who also has a very large community choir in the Chicago area, influenced me and have been super encouraging and influential kind of in my journey.
And Julian, just thinking about that rich legacy of musicians you come from. I mean, I love that I am solo. That's what it is. I don't care what range it is. I'm solo. I love that. But could you get into the Chicago choir scene, the choral scene there in Chicago? Was it huge? Was it a big thing that you were able to pull from?
The Chicago music scene is gigantic. And so certainly church choirs are big in Chicago, especially the gospel music legacy in Chicago, starting with Thomas Dorsey, is gigantic in Chicago. And so I grew up at a church that the choir, sanctuary choir, was arguably 80 to 100 people. And they sang everything from classical music to spirituals to gospel music to praise and worship. In the community, I was active as a young person in the Chicago Community Chorus, and they rehearsed both on the South Side and North Side, having over 100 members. There were groups that got together for special occasions to put on special works. I was familiar with groups like the Chicago Children's Choir and Walt Whitman and the Soul Children of Chicago. And I later went during my college years to work for a very small stint with the Chicago Children's Choir, now known as United Voices Chicago. So the choir scene is huge, and there are so many people that I have met in my professional life who are also on the Chicago music choir scene as I was growing up, who I had never met, and have learned so much more about the rich history of Chicago Symphony Chorus, Apollo Chorus, and just so many other groups.
And Julian, I come from a large family, and lots of them are in Chicago as well. So I just think about the similarities that Chicago and Detroit have, that Midwestern feel that we both have. Some of the footworks, we do a lot of little hustles, different ones in Chicago than Detroit, of course, but we do have hustles. So just thinking about that similarity and thinking about bringing that Chicago flair with you here to the city of Detroit and bringing it to the Rackham Choir. Talk a little bit about some of the styles that you want to start to bring into and infuse with the choir.
Well, one of the things I love about the Rackham Choir is they are so diverse in their offerings, from doing things like Too Hot to Handle to doing Mendelssohn's Elijah for a Requiem. We just recently, 2 days ago on Sunday, did the Andre Thomas Gospel Mass, a mass of love and celebration, which is very gospel in a lot of ways, but includes spirituals and different styles throughout. And so they are so used to always having a diverse offering. And so in terms of bringing new things, we're going to be looking at new pieces. We're going to be looking at up and coming composers. But I don't think there's new styles that Rackham hasn't touched yet. Yeah. So I'm just looking forward to expanding the repertoire we do, expanding the communities in which we reach, and then also bringing along new composers, new works to the world.
You're listening to The Metro. I'm Tia Graham, and I'm talking to Julian Goods about the oldest Detroit choir, the Rackham Choir. Now, we talked a little bit about some of those styles there, and I would love to just expand on that because for me personally, whenever I think of a choir, I just instantly go to gospel music. That's the only thing that my mind goes to, or maybe a Christmas carol. But I rarely go to the idea that there's an expanded repertoire of music that's being played. So could you talk just a little bit about that style there and other ways that you plan to incorporate different styles within the choir? Because I know you're not limited to just using spirituals or gospel music.
Yeah, so the wonderful thing about Rackham Choir is that people come from various backgrounds and traditions. And so in Rackham Choir, we do everything from gospel music, traditional classical music, to to jazz, pop, rock. Many of you know Rackham for doing Too Hot to Handle with featuring Alvin Waddles and Marion Hayden. And that piece has so much jazz and rock and pop in it. Even our concert this Sunday show both like the gospel side of singing, but also the classical side through classical works. And so our biggest goal is that our singers have a well-rounded experience and that we show that choral music is not just either gospel and spiritual music, and it's not just classical music. It's all of the things in between.
I love it. And, you know, our producer, Carrie, he's a musician and he said he was classically trained. So oftentimes we talk about just the music and break it down. And we think about singers and oftentimes Carrie and I talk about singers and being in churches and being in choirs and learning those vocal training skills. Could you talk a little bit about the importance, if you can, having a classical background? Is it important to have a classical background as a singer?
I think that as a singer, it is important to have a strong foundation, a technical foundation. And a lot of the vocal techniques that persist and create good singing come from the classical tradition and can be applied to whatever genre we're singing. And so whether that's breathing technique or placement, those principles that are usually taught through the bel canto style of classical singing, applied to gospel music, to rock singing, and all the other styles, including jazz. And so that it's just important for singers to have a solid foundation, which most of us find through classical music, and then can use really copy and paste to whatever style we choose to sing.
And can other genres be foundational as well? Or is classic one of those things that truly helps build out the singer's range?
I think that classical music certainly builds out the singer's range, but that other styles of music certainly are helpful. I think that, no singer should be limited in their foundational years to solely singing classical music, but that their voices should be exposed to as many things as possible so they understand how certain principles apply to every style.
And just thinking about the Rackham Choir in general and hearing you talk about the different genres, the different styles, the different, artists that you're covering or singing or producing, whatever it may be that you all are performing. And, you have this wide range that you can pull from. And right now we're in a time where we see artists like Beyonce, for example, using different styles in different ways for now during using Cowboy Carter. But I'm just, I'm thinking about just her in general and other artists who are starting to dip in and out of different genres and blend them in different ways. Can you talk about how places and people like the Rackham Choir have been instrumental in showing that these things are possible?
Yeah, I think the Rackham Choir has over the years shown the city of Detroit that choir singing is not just classical music, it's not just gospel, that it is fun, it is jazz, it is pop, it can be whatever you want it to be, whether that's a little Motown or a little R&B. The choir, the beautiful thing about choral music is that it is something that is for everybody. Rackham has done pieces like a piece called Mass in Blue, which is more jazz in its nature. 2 years ago, we did the Duke Ellington Sacred Songs, which features jazz big band, choir, and a tap dancer.
Wow.
And so Rackham has set the standard for Detroit's choral scene, showing that anything and everything is possible, and that the biggest goal of choir is for everyone to find community within.
And Julian, because listening to you talk about the Rackham Choir and how it's expanded across the city of Detroit, that changed the sound in certain aspects. Are you familiar with the Detroit Youth Choir?
I am very familiar with the Detroit Youth Choir. I helped prepare them for their Carnegie Hall debut a few years ago, and have several singers at my high school who sing with them, and know Mr. White, Anthony White, the artistic director, very well.
I love that connection so much. You're helping with another generation of young singers in a choir, and you have that background where you can really help direct them in a really cool way. We often speak with Anthony White from the Detroit Youth Choir and some of the kids, and it's really great connecting with them and learning how choir and being in the chorus has helped them expand their knowledge, help their confidence and who they are as people, and go on to do great things in this world. So, the choir has really helped them out. So what are your goals for the Rackham Choir?
My goals for the Rackham Choir is for us as a community of singers to start going into communities in which we maybe have not been in a while. So making sure that we're reaching the whole city of Detroit through what we do. We're also looking to grow our membership and to bring people into the fold who either have not sang with us in a while or have always wanted to sing with us. And so we're looking to get more people involved with what we do, but also expand our reach. And then to also engage a lot of the professional musicians who are in the Detroit area. So our last concert featured 4 wonderful musicians from the Detroit area: Brendan Davis, who's a pianist, Jonathan Meercott, a great bass player, Lewis Jones III, who is an extraordinary drummer, and then Duncan McMillan, who is, first of all, a wonderful pianist, but wonderful Hammond organist, and 2 amazing soloists, Levante Hurd and Candace Potts. And so with collaborating with them, we were able to bring in some of Detroit's finest, and that's our goal, to continue to do that, to expand the communities in which we reach, but also expanding who we get to collaborate with and bringing everybody into the fold.
And before I let you go, Julian, you just had a performance. You've been talking about it this past Sunday at Hartford Memorial Church. Where can people catch your next performance? Where can people catch Rackham Choir?
Yeah, so Rackham Choir will be doing our final concert of this season on May 17th at the First Presbyterian Church of Royal Oak. That concert will feature both the Rackham Choir and our 6 highly talented and amazing high school interns who have been studying privately for years, and they will each get a chance to do a few selections. And so this is a place in which we get to showcase all the talent that we have inside Rackham Choir. And so you can meet us at First Presbyterian Church of Royal Oak on May 17th.
All right. Julian Goods is the newly appointed artistic director for the Rackham Choir, one of Detroit's oldest choirs, been around since 1949. Julian, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you so much for having me.
From the WDET Newsroom. Colleges around the country are reporting cases of international students suddenly learning their visas have been revoked. The government can cancel them for a number of reasons, but college leaders say the Trump administration has been quietly terminating students' legal residency status with little to no warning. It marks a shift from the past practice and leaves students vulnerable to detention and deportation. Universities who've discovered students with revoked status include Harvard, Stanford, University of Michigan, Central Michigan, and Wayne State University. Wayne State President Dr. Kimberly Andrews Epsy says 4 international students are affected, and the school is working with those individuals. Up next, journalists in conflict zones face increasing threats. In 2023, a journalist or media worker was killed or murdered an average of every 4 days. In 2024, it was once every 3 days. The war in Gaza has been especially deadly for journalists. A group of news organizations has been investigating those deaths, and we will learn more next. This is the Metro.